Still got it. It's 11 o'clock, a special time again. So we're ready for Sink the Planet 2017. If we can get off this tree stump. Let's get the show on the road. So, topic for discussion this year is, if you can change one thing in the world, what would you change? Well, it's a long topic really, so let's get on the road and see what we can come up with. Thank you. I've been looking forward to today actually, because there's so much I can say about this topic, but I don't want to, because it is quite a broad subject, and by covering it in full, I think I'm going to probably say some things which some people might be like, what? Especially given that this video is going to be watched by people all over the world. I certainly don't seek to offend anybody or, undermine their cultural beliefs or their political beliefs or how anybody lives their life, but there are some things going on in the world right now which are deeply concerning. You look at the news and there's always something going on, terrorism related, poverty, lack of education, something negative every day, politics, people not cooperating with one another. And it's a real shame, and all these problems I think stem from a variety of issues, politically charged, religiously charged, and some people just want to live their life the way they want to live it. Fair enough. They don't really want to bother anybody, or don't want to impose their beliefs or their way of life on other people, but then there's people that do, and I think it's mainly, this kind of thought process is mainly driven by their political and religious beliefs, which, no matter how much you can deny it, they are closely related. There's a lot of negative press in the media regarding certain belief systems at the moment, certain religions, and this is causing a lot of clashes within different social groups around the world. There are also a lot of wars going on in the world because religion is being used as a scapegoat and as leverage to excuse and justify undermining people, killing people, and just generally causing mayhem. I'm all about freedom personally. I think that it's a deeply complex subject. I live by the standard that I am entitled to my own beliefs, and I wouldn't try and impose them on anybody else. And also I live and argue that everybody else's beliefs should be protected, as long as they keep their personal beliefs to themselves. Because at the end of the day, it's their right. They have the right to religious and political freedom and freedom of speech. But it's a double-edged sword, because if your beliefs come in conflict with the laws of the land, then you have a problem. So in Europe, we have human rights. We have a lot of, let's say, laws which protect individuals from a variety of problems and potential dangers, and people need to respect that. By all means, practice your religion, practice your political beliefs, live your life the way you want to live it, but abide by the core principles of the country or the culture that you live in. People keep moaning and saying, oh, we don't want immigrants in our country. we don't want immigrants in here, nah, we don't want them, you know, they're doing this, they're that, they're violent, they're savages. Well, the thing is, and I don't think people understand this principle, you know, immigration, at least in the UK, America, and a lot of the European countries, immigration is a direct consequence of the actions in which your country is involved in. So, for example, the whole problem with Iraq in the past, so you had a lot of Iraqis emigrating to different countries to avoid basically being killed. You can't blame them for that. People just want to survive, they want to live, right? It's a basic human instinct. But more recently, you know, immigrants from Syria, migrants, should I say, children, young children, women, men, you know, it's all these wars, in some way or another, you know, our governments are involved in them to some extent, whether it's weapons sales, whether it's direct involvement in bombing, you know, the shit out whatever opposition or whatever group it is that they're bombing. At the end of the day, that's just fueling the flames, and you know, it's just causing chaos. It's none of our business. Let them get on with it. Let them do what they got to do, and just deal with it. Don't go there telling them how they're supposed to live their lives, because it's just going to throw fuel on the flames. But of course, you know, it's like I said before, it's a double-edged sword, because what does, you know, I hate to say this, but war is a profitable business. Of course, you've got weapons sales, you've got the sales of aid, you've got the sale of ammunition, and of course what happens once a country's destroyed and the infrastructure's gone, you've got to rebuild the country. So there's money to be made in rebuilding that which was destroyed. And these people, you know, these politicians, these high-end people that live, you know, relatively luxurious lives, they don't understand, they don't feel the weight or the consequence of their actions, of their decisions. Because I'm pretty sure that if you ask anybody, you know, these days, should we go to war with a country, most people will say no. So I think one thing that needs to change for sure is that people actually have to be enabled to have a say in what their government does and does not do. There's this culture of saying one thing and doing another, you know, condemning the actions of certain countries or whatever human rights transgression they may have. And there are some countries which unfortunately have a pretty poor record with handling human rights. Fine, but then don't go doing business deals with them for billions of dollars worth of weaponry. The situation is constantly escalating. There is more and more friction in the world, and there is more and more friction between different cultural and social groups. Everybody's sort of watching their backs from one another, and you know, Brexit was a perfect example of that. The moment that the result was announced, the very small minority of people who are racist, of people who do not want to welcome other cultures and people of different backgrounds into the country, took that as a cue for them to express their, you know, their disdain and hate towards other people. You know, people were getting beaten up on trains, on buses, and told to go back to their country. I don't think that's right, personally. You know, I'm an immigrant myself, technically, because I moved from Italy over to England quite a few years ago now, almost 2 decades ago. But I've adapted. I don't look at people based on their colour of the skin, on the religion, their cultural beliefs, their sexual orientation, their family background and history. I don't care. As long as you behave in a way which, you know, contributes to the society in which you live in, we're not going to have a problem. Things need to change, and I think that's the first thing. One thing that needs to change is people need to have mutual respect for one another. First and foremost, mutual respect, despite your differences. At the end of the day, you know, there's all these people trying to tell us that, oh, you know, well, he's black, he's white, and oh, but they're Muslims and they're Christians, so oh, they're not going to get on. There's no reason why people can't get on, because first and foremost, and this is what I say, this is my opinion, first and foremost, we're human beings. And as human beings, we are capable, peace dude, we are capable of critical thought. So where there's a difference in political allegiances, religious beliefs, that's secondary. And whatever, it shouldn't come in between people being able to have, you know, a respectful, decent conversation between one another. And that's how I look at life. That's how I look at any person I meet. There's a lot of this misinformation going around to create inertia and friction to cause division amongst people, and I don't think that's right. And you know, if we look at history, the last time that something like this went on, you know, we're talking about the Second World War, and millions of people lost their lives. And people nowadays say, oh, you know, oh, that will never happen again. No, it's never going to happen again. But you don't know that. We look at the amount of hate that is on the news constantly, all the negative press that certain religious groups are getting. And you're telling me that things aren't moving towards something terrible. I'm sorry, but I think you're wrong. I think there is this really strong agenda of negatively portraying certain ethnic groups or religious groups to create division. I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's about creating division and disarray, and then when people are living in fear, they're more likely to accept extreme solutions to basically non-existent problems. Because like I said before, if we all treated each other with respect, if we all treated each other as human beings first and foremost, and lived by the principle of respecting one another, despite of religious differences, despite of what we believe is right and wrong culturally, and we live by the laws of the land, I don't think we'd have these problems. People are just using these differences as leverage to separate us and cause division. That's my take on things. That was our job.